Must have tech probs or rescheduled. Not today. Not today, Maxim. We were just catching up behind the scenes, and Andrew has a new pair of glasses, so he first had to make sure his glasses were perfectly fitted to his face before he comes on and shows himself to his adoring public. Welcome, everybody, to Aquarius Rising Africa. And it's a beautiful Wednesday. And thank you for all of you that have been holding my country in your prayers. We're going through quite a immigration crisis here at the moment. And wow, it's been wild. So yesterday was pretty much the absolute cleanup of what they call illegal foreigners and immigrants. It's been brutal, violent, and a lot of bloodshed. But the government needs to be sorted out. So for those of you who've been humming for Africa, I very much appreciate you. Thank you so much. We definitely need it, and don't stop. This is just the beginning. Let's see what happens next, yeah? Anyway, without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Rachel and Andrew, and we're going to be talking about further shenanigans in Australia. Ta-da. Welcome.
Hey,
Andrew, you look gorgeous with your new specs. We'll just tell you that up front.
And I had a haircut, but you know, we sort of, this doesn't take as long to cut it now as it used to. Never mind. I made up for it. What I can't grow on my head, I grow on my face.
Well, you look very handsome, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of us ladies. So ladies, chime in. If you agree that Andrew looks handsome, yes, give us a thumbs up.
And we're going to do a bit of sign language here so we don't talk over the top of each other because of the slight satellite delay.
Yeah.
And so I will not try to talk over the top of you. I have a few things to say which will be amusing because I can see the funny side, and should be pretty good. I'll give you a weather report. We have climate change here. It didn't rain yesterday, and today it's raining, and you couldn't see down the road. People are panicking and pulling off the road, so they weren't in my way. They may have thought they had a crazy man behind them because I had like an appointment, but I live 90 kilometers north, and the wind was blowing, rain you couldn't see through, flooded roads, but I still had to get down here on time because I'm a very busy man, and I've been busy all day. So if I seem a bit excited, it's because I'm still winding down from my driving. See, that's what it's like here. So anyway, have some topics to cover. And
firstly, I want to just say we're very happy to have you back. Thank you for making it. I know that you do have to take a drive to get there. And I just want to say I really appreciate what you guys and girls, guy and gal, are doing. I know, when we bring up topics like this, it always stirs the hornet's nest. And we're always going to bring out, for those of you who've read my book, The Honeycomb Tales, we talk about the dark nest, right? The flipped hive where the hornets and the killer bees reside, right? And when we flip it up again, of course, that's when we get the honey, right? And right now, you guys are very much in the process of flipping that hive. And I know Australia has some crazy, wild, I mean, I always say that everywhere is that, but it's so incredible, as someone who's a South African and knows a lot of people living in Australia and love the country. I mean, we only get to hear the best of what happens in Australia. So, of course, I think the rest of the world has that perception. And of course, with your crazy big insects, I mean, you guys put us to shame with that here on the African continent. We've still got elephant, though. That way outranks anything that you could put out there, okay? And, but when we look at the underbelly of the world, and particularly Australia, it's as brutal as what the outback is. I can imagine the outback to be, rather, put it that way. It's so brutal when you hear everyone speak about it. So Thank you for your voices. And thank you for putting a stick in the hornet's nest. We really appreciate it. And here we turn it into honey. So thank you.
Well, we'd like to tell you, Australia's a great place and a lot of good things happen here. And I could tell you about my last fishing trip. It was fantastic. But we're not here to talk about that. So everybody out there, don't get the impression Australia is a really bad place. But we have terrible policing. We have very suspect government. In the middle would be good, not too far right, not too far left, and we'll all get along. But pretty much I'm going to do two things today. I'm going to have a chat about somebody who's doing some dreadful journalist work here. His name's Brian Littley. Hello, Brian. I know you'll be watching this as I speak because you just can't get enough of me. But this bloke...
Who's Brian Littley? Do we know him?
Brian Littley, he's a failed journalist. And I'll say that because a court reporter, when I was in court, told me what happened. And I won't go into great detail unless he wants to upset me more, and I'll tell you all about it. But he went into work with a liver problem and got stuck into all of his female staff, etc., and said things that were pretty atrocious. And then he was kicked out. So he lost his job. The meantime, at that time, he was hanging around my court case with Anthony Munro, and I thought he was a good bloke. And he got all my slides, all Max's slides, of most of my evidence, sold it for $8,000 to a television station here that then had to hand it on to SAPOL. So they always knew what I was going to be doing because they had all my evidence. This I could cope with. And then I've been to 3 of his Meet the Peoples where he makes money out of using my evidence and my slides. Yeah. And he shows my slides of Anthony Munro and my father because they are mine. And he uses my evidence and he plays my interviews. And then he tells people you have to believe 100% of what Andrew McIntyre says. And then he turns around and tears me to pieces, tells everybody I've never been a witness. I'm not a witness to anything to do with the Beaumont Children. My father, Alan Maxwell McIntyre, had nothing to do with the disappearance of the Beaumont Children. He targets Anthony Munro, and then he has found a whole lot of dead people who have died and no longer alive. And he calls them pieces of shit, pedophiles. You know, you don't call people pieces of shit when they can't defend themselves. It's a very bad way to speak here, but he keeps saying it. So I follow him around, and I went to his Victor Harbour show, and then I went to the one and the Arkabar Hotel. There was about 300-400 people there, where he made fun of a very successful detective from the eastern states here, Gary Jubilant, and he canned him and he made fun of him and all that sort of stuff. And I said to Brian, I said, you want to be very careful making fun of a man like Gary Jubilant because I wouldn't want him standing behind me. So at the last show, he didn't mention Gary's name. I have a photograph of myself with Gary Jubilant. It's on my Facebook site. But what I want to say is I went to the last one, which was 400 k's north of Adelaide. So he thought that he could say things about me and I wouldn't be there. Well, I was, and I turned up, and he was horrified because he was going to make fun of me, tell the whole world what an idiot I am. So I went there, and I'm sitting down, and he starts to become agitated, and he starts getting angry about me being there. And I sat down, I held my ground, didn't get up. And then a belligerent drunk in front of me kept turning around and screaming at me, saying I was talking. And I said, no, mate, I'm not talking. And then Brian, literally up on the stage, he starts threatening me in front of all these people with grey hair like me that want to know what happened to the Beaumont Children, etc., and family murders and all those cases. And so he starts threatening me, and I'm sitting down. I thought, I'm not going to have a bar of this. I mean, I'm not going to be provoked into a scene where I'm thrown out of the place. And God help anybody that tries to throw me out of a venue, because if they manage to get me out the door, they'd have to deal with me later, because nobody does that to a McIntyre. We don't like being bullied, see. So anyway, he's laying the law down, and he says, oh, Andrew, I'll give you 15 seconds to go to the counter and get your money back and you can leave. I sat there. And then he sent the bouncer around to me. So I have this belligerent drunk abusing me in front myself, really close. And then I had Brian Lilly up on the stage threatening to throw me out with physical violence. And then I had the bouncer there, who should be bloody careful because he's on an invalid pension for being a cripple, and he's muscles from head to foot, and he's working as a bouncer, but he's still claiming a pension as a cripple. You like that one? I won't mention his name because he's not a bad lad, but he was getting ready to muscle me out of the place. And I sat there and I said, I'm here to learn something, Brian. I got this idiot in front of me still screaming at me, this guy ready to throw me out of the place. And I said, besides, and I picked up my phone and I said, I'll ring the police. So piss off. I didn't say it, I'll ring the police. So everything settled down. I sat there. So then we open up with the big interview and program that I did with Channel 7 with the illegal filming and recording of my father in his house at Stansbury, where the guy who did the filming told me they put a camera in the bottom of a satchel and put it on the floor. And then Brian had a recorder in his pocket and they interviewed my father. And my brother was in the room. My sister might have been there as well, the ones I don't speak to. And they did this interview. And it was all out of sync because the voice recorder was recording in real time, but the camera in the suitcase was running a bit slow. So after about 30 seconds, the voice didn't match, right? Didn't voice, it was all out of sync. So I saw this full interview because Bradley Gardner, the photographer, he brought it over and showed me. He also showed the co-complainant against Anthony Munro in that case that I was involved in, who's a mate of this guy. So anyway, we know what happened. Brian's claiming that there was a professional photographer there filming. There was not. It was a stolen interview and it was illegal. So we'll deal with that one later. But Brian then shows this, before that, he shows me being interviewed. And it's the only chance Brian's ever had of being on camera by the media. And he's telling everybody that you have to believe 100% of what Andrew McIntyre tells you. Fair enough. And there's me being interviewed by Channel 7 about 5 times. So it's all about Andrew McIntyre, but I'm not allowed to be in the room, which is bullshit. Yeah. So, and all of the other people, the people that were there were thinking, what's going on here? Like when I turn up at one of Brian's shows, people think I must say, oh, it's nice to have a celebrity here, Andrew. It's really his own family, daughter, and his own daughter said, gee, it's really nice for you to come here, Mr. McIntyre, to help us out with our show. And I'm public enemy number 1, and Brian wants to have me thrown out. So Brian gets through that. It's all about me, but I'm not allowed to be in the room. Then he shows all this illegal footage of my father and claims that there's another 6 hours of that footage. That was my footage. That was probably risky business recording of John Pike, myself, John Pike and my father. Really important stuff. A lot that you wouldn't listen to because it's like 2 pedophiles having a chat and in code. It's pretty creepy. It's
pretty gross.
But Brian tells everybody that he recorded that, but he's never shown 1 minute of it because it's...
I would actually like to... I mean, you guys are talking about pedos talking in code. The only time I've ever heard anything like that, interesting enough, when I was living in Thailand and I was taking the minibus to whatever the neighboring country was, to get my passport renewed. And there were 2 Australians sitting in front of me. and they were talking about Viagra and what Viagra was the best, and little boys. And I literally told the guy to shut the F up. I was so disgusted. I did. And I mean, you know, when I decide, I will not often take someone on publicly. Often I'll just like live and let live. But that I was like, and the whole minibus was like, what? I said, stop talking about effing little boys. But they weren't really talking in pedo code, though. I could hear what they were saying. But I'd like to actually know what they say in these conversations, and also purely for viewers as well. I would like us to know what to listen out for when we're hearing them talk.
When I eventually know you a lot better, I might give you a copy of this stuff to listen to, and then there'll be nothing that you don't know. What I mean talking in code is they're just creepy, the way they talk. And, oh, I'd never do that. And my father would say, oh, isn't it terrible what some people do to children and that? And the other one would say, oh, yeah, that's terrible, Max. And they're all having a good laugh because that's what they do. So
mockery.
They just pretend that they don't do that sort of thing when we all know that they do. But this Brian, literally, he's been atrocious. And so that's to do with me not being allowed to go when showing footage of myself. I'm not allowed to be there.
Footage of Andrew, his
doing
photographs, the interviews, and the information.
All of the slides that he shows are mine.
And on this man Brian's Facebook page, he's constantly saying that I have no evidence to back up my claims. It's like he's got a copy and paste that he can just take and just pop it in every single time someone mentions my name. Rachel Vaughan has no evidence to back up her claim. So that's when I actually published my victim of crime compensation letter from my lawyer to prove that I had been compensated. I shouldn't have had to publish that, but I had to because he kept doing this. And he actually went on to a public interview, which is why we have a right to do this, and said that he had never seen a single one of my interviews, never read a single one of my Facebook posts or social media posts. And yet he continued to say that there was no evidence to back up my claims. He doesn't know if there's no evidence because he's never read anything or watched anything of mine.
Controlled opposition gatekeeper.
Absolutely,
that's how they operate. 100%. So what would you guys in Australia, I mean, if he's a journalist, I mean, that's a very dangerous position as well. You know, we know journalists are literally media puppets, and the media is the puppet for whatever.
Correct.
And there's a whole league of them.
Yeah. So he's obviously
when it comes to the child murder cases in South Australia, there's a whole league of them. They write books. They take over. There's a medium that came out here called Alison Dubois. And she was going to cover the Beaumont case. Instead, the week before she was to do a big thing at the Entertainment Centre, which is a big arena in Adelaide, before she actually did it, a week beforehand, the revolting Channel 9 program, I hate Channel 9 because I was used in child sex filming in Channel 9 when I was a child. They did this 60 Minutes thing. So 60 Minutes is supposed to be their, journalism program.
Yeah, I know 60 Minutes.
They destroyed this medium. I don't follow her, but she'd done some stuff where she was saying she was speaking for the children, for the Beaumont children. They absolutely destroyed her. And then poor Alison Dubois is supposed to get up on stage a week later and do the same thing. Now, she obviously didn't want to. So instead, a guy who's written a bunch of books about a guy that did not kill the Beaumont children got up on stage and took over.
And that's Sapol's opinion. Some of these book writers, not all of them, there's been a couple of really good books that brought out 20 years ago, telling the truth of what they knew. And then as witnesses die and as the perpetrators die, etc., the bullshit rises to the top. It does. And that's what this Brian Little's doing. And I would say he's working for Sapol. That may offend him. Sapol might not even want to have anything to do with it. I think Sapol disliked Brian as much as I do. Brian's driven by his own ego. That's what I've been told. He's driven by his own ego. And this, I don't want to be rude to you, Brian, but you're pushing your luck, mate. Yeah. Because when push comes to shove, I'm a much bigger person than you are, and I'm a witness and I state facts, and I back up all of my facts in print, signed on documents. And Brian's claiming that he's come to the conclusion that my sisters and I are bullshitters. We had nothing to do with the Beaumont children or them coming to the house at Macklin Street because our stories have changed so much. Our stories haven't changed by one word since we were children. Our stories have never changed. We wrote them down as soon as we remembered.
Yeah.
We repeat the same story. Rachel never changes what she says. If she's talking about something to do with my eyewitness account, she checks up with me and I make the corrections to make sure that it's perfect. So Brian's come up with this bullshit that our stories have changed so much. That's a lie, Brian. That is a lie.
Bearing in mind, he's gone public to say he's never seen a single post and he's never watched a single one of my interviews. So I've got that. I've downloaded that interview and I will hold on to that for the rest of my life because he has said publicly he's not done that. And yet he can make these statements.
Well, see, I've got the hand going up again because I'm about to speak. Watch the hand. The hand's dangerous. So Brian, I gave Brian a bit of coaching, questions to ask, even though he's the journalist and I'm just a dummy. And I said, make sure you ask my father, when you interview him, where, and this was for the Advertiser, it went in print. It wasn't filmed, it was print. Max, what about your car? You know, where was your car that day? And my father said, and I can hold it up and send it. We can send it to you to read. This is in the Advertiser. Oh, my father said, oh, Brian, I didn't have my car that day. Anthony Munro brought the Beaumont children around dead in the boot of my white Mark II Zephyr to Macklin Street, to my home address, Macklin Street.
Yeah.
He dobbed himself in.
Yeah.
Brian nearly fell off the chair. He told me that he almost passed out. That's the scoop of a lifetime with the Beaumont case.
Wow.
And it's signed off by Brian Littley, the journalist, right? So my father admitted in print in the Advertiser, and this is going back
2015.
nearly 10 years.
2015.
Yeah. That was more than 10 years now.
Yeah.
He dobbed himself in. And now Brian Littley comes out and he tells people, my father, Alan Maxwell McIntyre, had nothing to do with the Beaumont children, had no involvement whatsoever. Well, Brian, you're really having problems there. I won't allude to what your problems might be, but I'm glad I don't suffer, Brian.
Who would you guys imagine? Obviously, there's anyone who's been watching these shows for the past 6 years along with us will know that it's obvious these guys go out and do a misinformation and they try and discredit you in any way. Who do you think is behind this? I mean, I know Australia has lots of different factions as well. What is your take on who he's actually gatekeeping for?
Well, we'll both answer that, but Rachel, we have equality here. Men are almost equal to women in Australia. So Rachel can have a few words.
So when we refer to SAPOL, I'm just going to remind people that means South Australian Police. So what I think is going on, Brian thought that he had the scoop of a lifetime, which he did, but he's destroyed it by being absolutely impossible to deal with. He has a whole history of attacking survivors of CSA, SRA. He just goes after people if he thinks he can't control them so that he can go after reward money. And it's all about reward money. He's absolutely obsessed with this case so he can get reward money. That's what I think is actually
money.
What goes behind it.
Okay, what reward money are we talking about? Are we talking about finding people alive or finding evidence of bodies or whatever? And who rewards? Who pays this reward money?
Well, the state does, the taxpayer does. And the way it works here is, I'll give you an example. They refuse to do anything. They refuse to dig up dead children, right? But they make it look like they're trying to do something by saying, we'll offer $1.2 million for any information leading to the recovery of the Beaumont children. Yeah. I gave them in 2011 a full report on where they are, how they got there, and who put them there. So that's 2011. That's a long time ago. And in 2015, I added a few little things in yellow. highlighted them. They should have immediately dug up the Beaumont Children and handed me $1.2 million. And I will get that money eventually. And if I want to help any of my family members out or anything, or any victims of crime, it's my choice. But I'll be getting some money back from all the money that we've had to spend trying to solve these cases. It costs us an arm and a leg, right? So there's a case of this little girl that was abducted in Western Australia, up north in Western Australia. And she'd been taken by somebody living in one of the Aboriginal villages. No shot at the Aboriginals. It's just somebody who liked little kids. He probably wasn't even a pedophile, but he abducted this little girl. And how old was she? About 5? Yeah. Right. She disappeared off the planet. They put out $1 million reward. And a bloke who lived in the village, and they call them out, well, it's just one of the towns that Aboriginal people live in. He did a fantastic job. He went round listening to walls and walking around, investigating, and he could hear this little girl inside this guy's house, and he lived by himself. And he's thinking, why can I hear a child inside this person's house? And he'd abducted her, and I'm not saying I wouldn't know if I doubt really did anything to her, but he pinched her. He stole her from her parents from a campsite. He had her locked in there for over a week. And this guy found out where she was, notified police. The police came up about a day later and rescued the child. They refused to pay him the reward money. And they said, oh, we knew that little girl was in there 3 days ago, but we've had it under observation because we had it under observation. Oh, no, we really like little girls being sexually abused and beaten up and murdered. So we just left the little girl there for another 3 days to see if this guy could kill her. I'm getting excited that it really pisses me off. The fact is, they didn't have a clue before this guy told them where the child was. Then they refused to pay him his money, right? As they refused to pay me any money. But they refused to, they're worse here, at least in Western Australia, they went and saved the child. Here in South Australia, they'd go in the other direction.
Yeah, basically.
Any children that are murdered here and buried, nobody wants to dig them up. And it really upsets me. And I'm telling you the truth. And if anybody out there has a problem with what we have to say, let us be the first people to know about it. If you have a complaint against me, contact me. There's I don't want trolls, but I asked for something. I now have a site, which I never wanted to have.
I'm
and
not sure. Sorry,
no,
if you just
you wouldn't know about it, but it's attached to my Facebook site. I've never had any friends or guests or anybody on my Facebook site because of the trolls.
Because the trolling's insane.
So nobody can put rubbish on my site to torment me.
Yeah.
Brian Lilly takes care of this by, if anybody, the last time he had a go at me, about 100 people, my researcher told me, put stuff on his site and he deleted it, but she knew it had been there, right? And one person, he couldn't get it off his site. So he was threatening to take her to court and sue her if she didn't remove her comment. And her comment was that Andrew McIntyre and Rachel are doing a good job.
Yeah. We have had one victory.
Only about 3 weeks ago.
Was it?
Month.
Okay. We have had a victory. One of the first interviews Andrew did with you, he mentioned that he wasn't going to stop until Grant Stevens, our Commissioner of Police in South Australia, stepped down. There has just been a vote of no confidence in the police commissioner and his deputy, and another very high-ranking police officer,
police minister, government
Bendito.
Minister.
No, it was his deputy commissioner.
His deputy, Tessuto, probably a good bloke. Thought it was so Bendito. Don't know much about him, but I think he was probably head of major crimes at some stage. The other guy, Doug Barr, was hung in his closet because I threw him under the bus. Tragic, but he deserved it. He was going to have me murdered, abducted and murdered by Sapole. set me up, sent me down to take some officers out to dig up some dead people, and they're going to arrest me as a terrorist.
Yeah.
I escaped with one phone call to my solicitor. I've talked about that before. I don't want to cover old ground. But the thing is that D'Souza was Deputy Police Commissioner, and he was, I think, was so upset with watching my interviews at the Castleloy site that he resigned. He was gone in 2 weeks. He walked out, cleared his desk. And it's not the first high-ranking police officer who's cleared their desk and resigned after evidence has been submitted by myself or one of my sisters.
Yeah. So that
Voigt was another one.
Venditto, yeah.
But Venditto cleared his desk, wouldn't tell anybody while he was leaving. But that was a year ago. The Castle.
Yeah, he was still being fully paid.
Fully
and
paid,
he only
but not
just
there.
resigned at this, and he resigned just previous to this no confidence motion by the South Australian Police Union in the South Australian Police Commissioner and his deputy, which is some woman called Williams.
Yeah,
I think that's her surname.
But he walked out on his job a year ago during the Castleloy dig.
Yeah,
another load of bullshit.
Yeah,
I spoke to the guy who supplied all of the earth moving equipment. Met him through one of his cars at an auction, small place, Adelaide, and I guesstimated 100,000 tons of dirt was dug up. He said it was 150,000 tons of dirt. I did that because all the politicians repeat these things when they're talking in Parliament. 150,000 tons, in case you haven't heard it enough, of dirt was dug up for nothing. It was a joke. The police knew that the Beaumont children weren't there because the police knew from the first dig and the second dig and the third dig that the Beaumont children were buried at Stansbury in a sinkhole. So one of the digs was $156,000. The other one would have been about the same. The third one was privately funded.
One was 250K.
One was 250,000 Ks. When they know that the Beaumont children are buried at Stansbury, this is the disgusting. This is what the cover-ups we have to put up with here. And most of the South Australian public are in the dark.
Yeah.
They believe what they read in the media. They believe their news reports. They believe their news reporters. Not saying they're all bad, but I've been told from SAPOL that the court, I won't say court investigators, the journalists that cover the criminal aspects and court cases, they all get a heads up from SAPOL. They get the gig. Then everything goes to SAPOL and their media censor it. And about 5% gets back out. Like in my interviews, people only see about 5% of what I say. And that's not even what I meant. I get furious. Are they like with the Channel 9 interview when the Castleloy dig was going? I rang up and gave the young journalist an education on the truth and what to really and do a better job next time. They made me look like I was an emotional wreck and that I was supporting pedophiles, which is not true.
Yeah. They
take things out of text.
Yeah.
If a pedophile's a pedophile, that's correct. But if people wrongly accuse a pedophile for things they haven't done, that's wrong. You have to give a balanced opinion of everything, the pluses and the minuses. So I don't support pedophiles, but I will stick up for them if they're being wrongly accused and it's only a smokescreen to cover up what the government's doing or what SAPOL are doing. They are the criminals in a lot of these cases.
Yeah.
So the advertiser finally put that straight. But yeah, people were doing a runner. The police, the deputy police commissioner, what's his name? Venditto.
Yeah.
He just walked out. Of course, he's been paid for another year on full pay because the brothers look after the brothers. If you're a brother, you can murder children, and that's okay.
Yeah,
You
they've
can
got their
cover
own
up-
laws, don't they? They
You can
live by their
destroy
own
witnesses. You can destroy witnesses. You can take innocent people and bankrupt them through the court system.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And unfortunately, I've got more to say about that later. But without me ranting too much, where are we?
Well, with the Castelloy dig, after the 150,000 tonnes of dirt were moved around, they then declared it was going to be a forensics hub for Adelaide. It's just a joke.
Yeah, it's a joke.
It's just a joke. So now they're going to turn it into a forensics hub. I mean, just...
And the police turned up after the dig had finished as a joke, and they got themselves in the paper standing next to their patrol car.
Yeah.
So SAPOL gets a mention, even though SAPOL went down there to have a laugh. So
there's a private organisation we've probably mentioned many times called Crime Stoppers, and you cannot report a cold case to South Australian police. You can't go into a police station and report a cold case. You have to go through this privately owned organisation called Crime Stoppers. So they're basically there to stop you from reporting a crime. It's censorship. Yeah.
And about a year and a half ago, there was a big scandal here that some of the people running Crime Stoppers were pedophiles. And we all thought the Crime Stoppers was going to be shut down because it was full of pedophiles. Yep. And I don't mean everybody in Crime Stoppers, but guys and girls, you need a wake-up call, because you're just a front for horrible people in proper law enforcement.
Yeah.
You're all doing it for free. You might be retired policemen or retired counsellors or something, but you're doing SAPOL's work. And it's on current cases you're not allowed to give evidence either. You are not allowed to go down to a police station and hand evidence over or making any statement in a police station. It's against the law. And they push you away and they say, oh, we can't take evidence. And I left a stack of evidence on their desk one day, and because there were ladies there, and I thought, oh, we have ladies working the police force now. You might care about dead children. You might do something. I went down to a place we call Dirty Sturt because there's so much corruption. So one of them haven't closed the place down. You know, selling stolen goods and all that sort of stuff. It's all been reported. Yeah. And they posted it back to me and wrote on it, we did not open this. We didn't look at this. Bunch of wankers.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
It's a joke. It would make you cry. It would make a grown, elderly, mature man like me cry.
This is what I say to me is the horrors, you know. This that I observe very strongly in Australia. And I'm not saying again that it's happening anywhere, that it's not happening anywhere else, but it seems to be particularly strong there. The chain of brotherhood members within the police force and within the justice system, it doesn't feel like anyone catches a break there. And I say that again, you know, going back to previous interviews I've done with other survivors, boys that have been in these boys' homes. I forget the one offhand now that was spoken about quite a bit, you know.
Derek.
That's the one, you know, and the MK Ultra, and that Ivan Milat, that guy was literally in that place, mind controlled. And from what I know, Ivan Milat is one of Australia's most prolific serial killers. And he was in Derek with one of the survivors I spoke with. Right. And they were all mind controlled, obviously. So, you know, these youngsters, and I guess particularly boys, I mean, I wouldn't say particularly girls are used for different things, but the ones I've spoken to that were in these boys' homes, not one kid caught a break there. And I mean, one of my questions to them was there any adult in this place that was actually on your side? Yeah. And that was a resounding no. They all work together. The kids do not stand a chance. That's the thing. I mean, in a place like that, in places like that, surely you want adults who can help these kids back on the right track again, right? And not peddle them out to monsters and pedophiles.
It's the same with the Glandore Boys Home, which is a couple of streets from where we grew up. A guy called John Simmons, who was abused there, said it was a den of pedophiles. A den. It wasn't just one or two. It was just full of them.
Yeah,
one of my father's mates was the commandant.
Yes.
One of my father's good mates was the commandant. I thought he was a high-ranking policeman, but then I found out with some research he was a superintendent. Yeah. And I went to school with his son, and he had issues. He was all right, but he was dead by the time he was about 20. A car accident. He probably had his hands tied to the wheel and was pushed over a cliff. But let's just say he died, like a lot of them did.
Yeah.
But his he had issues, whether it was he had ADHD or something. He was a bit hyper. But yeah, my father knew his father, who ran the boys' home. And if you wanted to have sex with children and you were in the know, you went to Glandor's boys' home. If you only have sex with boys, you'd go to the Goodwood Orphanage if you wanted to have sex with little girls or little boys. And you know, in the Mulligan inquiry, fact spoken about on the news and everything, there were groups of policemen would go there for meals any night of the week, where they'd have a meal cooked for them, and then they'd go up and have sex with the children. Yeah. The brothers can do anything they like. Yeah. And this was run through the Mulligan inquiry. It was common knowledge through the media, for people in South Australia. And I would say not one of those policemen were ever spoken to about the sex they had with children. Yeah. The Brotherhood are protected. They can murder children. They can have sex with children. They can murder witnesses. They can murder police that don't go along with the bullshit. They can do anything they like. And as I said, I must be special because I'm still alive and nobody's murdered me. Yeah. Or maybe they just think that if I'm half the danger that my father was, nobody wants to come near me.
Yeah.
Because God help anybody that walks through my front door unannounced. I've told everybody, even Sapol, don't come to my place unless you tell me you're going to come and see me about something. That's it.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's just wild. And I bet it's the same in every Western country in the world. Yeah. And it was the same in Canada. Ireland was terrible. Ireland was shocking. It would have been the same everywhere. Yeah. New Zealand wouldn't have escaped it, but people don't get any recognition. They're just hoping that the Andy McIntyres and the Rachels of this world drop dead. Yeah. But we're not going anywhere for a long time. So that's pretty much covered that unpleasant side of things. And the other thing with Brian Littley, ex-journalist, he's made claims now at 3 events that my sisters and I, one of them used to be very active, Ruth Collins, but she's not very active at the moment, and I just do not know why. I have a few theories, but I'll let her suffer with her own conscience. That is that we collectively are stopping people from digging up the Beaumont Children. How's that? That's a good one, isn't it?
After 20 years of doing all this work,
after 60 years of knowing,
yeah,
and trying to have something done about it,
yeah,
60 years. That's only 60 years. That's like more than half a century, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm showing my age. It's our fault that the Beaumont Children haven't been dug up. Yeah. Brian keeps telling everybody that it's just Crown land. Bullshit. It's not Crown land. I have all the certificates. I have a researcher who's very clever in Victoria. Yeah. She goes through and she sent me 120 documents on one piece of land. Now, why is that one piece of land so important that it has 120 documents on it? Mm. It makes it sound a little bit special, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit dodgy. I'd say there's a few skeletons in that closet.
Oh, just
literally.
There's lots of skeletons on the land. And my brother and Rachel can do anything they like, but they
Simone, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Bit of dyslexia.
Lots of siblings.
Lots of siblings. Simone, love her a lot to death. Love her to death. Love Danny to death. Hope I go to their funerals. That's why I stay alive, so I can visit the people that died before me.
And are those siblings now? Are
there are two siblings who own the Stansbury property and won't allow it to be exhumed.
And if they die, it has nothing to do with me. I just wished it upon them. It's called the McIntyre curse. And believe me, it's better than voodoo. Us white guys are pretty powerful in this sort of stuff. I can wish death upon people, and some of the ways they go is just tragic.
It's a little
their own fault.
Yeah. It's too many coincidences.
Yeah.
Can't be a coincidence.
If you want to go with the wrong crowd, you have to accept the consequences. And many people have. They've worked with SAPOL on these matters, and they've died terribly. But I'm just getting off. This is what gets me out of bed in the morning, and why I have so many dreams, just to enjoy it. The McIntyre curse.
Do you have siblings then that are some of your siblings still held hostage by the system?
Well, yeah, the ones who own the Stansbury property have been saying for years that they weren't abused. I've watched them being abused. I know they've been abused.
The sociopaths in the family, I won't say any more, but I know my brother's dodgy beyond belief. His daughters can tell you all about that. But and my brother won't take me into court for anything. Nobody will take me to court. I dare anybody out there wants to take Andrew McIntyre for a cruise through court. It's been done before. SAPOL tried it for 2 years, and then they went into hiding. Police versus Andrew Maxwell McIntyre, AVO. Oh my God, the police with their armoured vehicles and their machine guns and their thousands had to be protected from Andrew McIntyre. Why? Because Andrew McIntyre was conned into building a house on his father's land, and then Danny and Simone, his brother and sister, were in on it. As soon as I finished, the police took an AVO out on me, so I couldn't go to my own house. And then it was stolen from me. And Ruth and Ricky, that's my other sister from the first marriage, they had their place stolen as well. That's police did that. SAPOL did that. And when I challenged it and said I'm taking it to court, they ran off. You could hear the sirens disappearing into the distance over the hill. But the court could see the dishonesty in the whole thing. And when I paid for my $1,000 worth of transcripts, which had all been changed, I might add, censored and changed, that's illegal. SAPOL did a runner. Not one SAPOL officer turned up to court over 2 years, 3 different courts. And it was A.M. McIntyre versus A.M. McIntyre. But the court knew. So when they gave me my $1,000 worth of documents, they wrapped it up in the original charge. Police versus Andrew Maxwell McIntyre, AVO. You couldn't make it up. You couldn't make this up if you're writing fiction. And I have all the evidence. Yep, all the evidence. There you go. Police have even tried to kill me. Lined me up and ran me over with a big fishing boat with a 150 horsepower motor on the back, chopped me up, and then stopped to see if he'd successfully done the job. And I said, "You broke my arm, help me. I'm going to drown." And they pissed off. And then when as you know, it was all hidden by the police. And my father got all the documents, and then SAPOL broke into my house and stole them back. But they didn't get all of them. They got 1 out of 4. 1 of 4. I have 3 left. So when I feel like it, and I'm not so under the pump and so busy trying to get dead children out of the ground and expose police and government corruption, maybe I can be paid compensation because SAPOL tried to murder me. And if there's anybody in SAPOL that's listening to this, I'm quite happy to discuss it. You can hand me back the document where the policeman said he was doing 25 knots past a moored boat, but he didn't make any mention of running me down and leaving me in the water. That would have been 15 years compulsory imprisonment for the 3 people on the boat, 5 years each in prison. They got a caution for exceeding 4 knots past a moored vehicle, a moored boat. There you go. So I'm not a bullshitter, and I still have some of the documents. But SAPOL will break into your house to steal your evidence. There you go. And that's just one of the topics that we're talking about. Rachel,
I want to ask you again, like, when we're talking about, like, say, police, that's South Australian police, places like that, which obviously there's a lot of corruption going on in there. But again, I'm going to ask you the question: are there any safe people in these places that can be trusted? Because again, we're dealing with survivors like yourselves and thousands of other Australian people who I have no doubt sometimes feel like they want to go to the police, or that's the only way that's the only place they can go to report these things. So I'm hoping that when they report it, that there isn't just a bunch of these gatekeepers. They're all like Freemasons, got each other's backs. That's what concerns me.
Documents have always gone straight into the rubbish bin. And I think it was the police commissioner laughed about how they took rooms, I've mentioned this before, rooms of evidence from cold case murders of children, and they put it across to electronic file. And then they burnt everything in the furnace, which they always do. Even the Somerton man's belongings, that famous case here, they incinerated everything. So you couldn't find, they were worried about some DNA on there that might have belonged to the police. And they burned everything. And then he laughed and he said, but when we went to check the file, nothing had come across. And he laughed again. And they're just saying, fuck you, everybody. And I don't swear very often, but it was just up your nose, South Australian taxpayers. We do whatever we like, and we destroy evidence, we destroy witnesses, and lots of other things. Because I'm not the only one that's saying this. There have been police, retired policemen who have got out of the force, have complained about the bullying, the corruption, the cover-ups. And we've had some famous cases that go, people that went all the way back to the professor being thrown off the bridge into the Torrens River. He said they knew he was going to drown because we knew he just had one lung cut out due to lung cancer and he couldn't swim. And it was the middle of winter and the water was freezing. So we knew he was going to die, but everybody thought it was really funny. And all of the policemen involved, except this one policeman, and if I could remember his name offhand, I'd give him a plug for being a good bloke. He died he was interviewed in 2009, and then he died shortly afterwards. I'm sure it was from natural causes. And he said
natural causes.
Yeah, he was the only one that didn't take a payout. Now, not only did they beat up a whole lot of homosexuals that were just talking to each other on the banks of the river, because they knew they'd congregate there, but they killed somebody, they murdered him. They didn't offer to pull him out of the water and save him. They just left him to drown. They were all given so much money as a payout that they could buy a hotel in South Australia. They had enough payout money to buy a hotel. Well, if you want to buy out a hotel now, you'd be looking at about $5 million. So it just gives you an idea how much taxpayers' money was given to these blokes for killing somebody. And he was a professor in the Adelaide University. That's just another one of our skeletons that we drag out every now and again. So
it's just crazy. There is some hope because, as I said before, the police union, the South Australian Police Union, has done a vote and they voted out the police commissioner with no confidence
and the deputy
motion,
and the police commissioner.
So that's a really good sign that they are not happy with what's going on. Of course, the police commissioner came out and said, but that's not the reports that I'm getting back. And then the next day, bird flu on the shore in the town next door to where the police commissioner has
diversion. Let's not talk about corruption here. Let's not talk about unhappy policemen. Let's talk about bird flu.
The day after. And
exactly.
The premier who can't do anything, Malinauskas in our state, can't do anything without Grant Stevens holding his hand, the police commissioner holding his hand.
Let's not.
He had a very worried look on his face.
Let's not get onto him. Our premier. Somebody loves him, but I don't. We certainly don't. No. Peter Malinauskas refused on national television to dig up the Beaumont children. How dare he? He refused to dig up the Beaumont children. I'm not going down any rabbit holes, he said. What are we talking about? Lewis Carroll and and Alice in
Alice in
Wonderland.
Wonderland,
That's
yeah.
what the joke was.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
the
a
joke,
programming tool.
Alice in
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland, yes.
Yeah,
It's a
Lewis
programming
Carroll.
tool. Yeah.
Rabbit holes. It was, you know, if you went down the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
you've read the book, haven't you?
Yes,
Oh,
of
Sean's
course.
pretty well aware of Alice in
It was
Wonderland.
Yeah.
compulsory reading
as well.
once
Yeah.
upon a time. And then everybody wants to turn around and say, oh, we think that Lewis Carroll might have been a pedophile because he wrote books for children. Give me a break.
No, I haven't
That's-
listened to him.
That's
Maybe
what
he is.
people do. Lewis Carroll, because he wrote books, children's books, is under suspicion of being a pedophile. He might have thought like a child or something, but I'm sure he never got caught interfering with children. But they have to dump pedophile
Everything.
stuff on everybody.
Oh,
It's
the
called
victim.
the
It
tall
might be.
poppy syndrome. God help anybody that calls me a pedophile.
Yeah.
I'll tear their head off. And I'm going to tell you where I'll stuff it.
Right up the bum. So what do
So-
you guys think? I mean, do you think now that these guys are being voted out, no confidence, whatever, do you think that is a shift happening in Australia? Do you think that somewhere there's a crack that's starting to allow the light to come in? Or is it just some other dodgy creature of the night that's taken up a throne or a half
It's very
throne?
interesting. I never thought it would happen. It's a curious thing.
Look, there's a lot of blackmail goes on here.
Yeah.
And we know about it because our father blackmailed people.
Yeah.
Mentioned it before. They were TV personalities,
Yeah.
politicians, you name it. The police would follow them around with cameras and Max would tell them where to go. And they'd set somebody up with a couple of 14-year-old underage prostitutes in Harley Street. This did happen, won't mention any names, destroyed somebody's career.
Yeah.
And then got them drunk. They finish up, whether they did anything with the prostitutes or not, they might have been unconscious. But there's the photograph of the guy with the 14-year-old prostitutes. And the next day he's shown the movie that he starred in, and he went off to Western Australia to hide. And I only knew about it because a mate of mine is his nephew.
Well,
Small place.
my father did a lot of that with me
But
through the time.
what I say is he was listening in. He was allowed to come and go in his government job whenever he liked, flexi time. He'd go in there and we know that somebody, I can't get stuck in the SAPO too much. They might pull me over and put a bullet through my head on the way home, or I'd probably get 5 just in case. But they blackmailed everybody. It started off with SP booking. My grandfather on mother's side was an SP bookie. He was quite a wealthy man. He had all his money stolen from him by the government and his land and property after my father shot him through the head and told me about it the next day at Stansbury and laughed about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty gruesome, isn't it? Oh, good on you, Max. Now we can turn all of his horse stable land into a bus depot.
Yeah.
So they got all they murdered my grandfather. Then they got all of his land and built a big bus depot on it. No bullshit, on Port Road. That's how they do it. Kill the owner of the land, confiscate the land, build a bus depot. But what I'm getting off the track here, because I'm quite crazy. Obviously, I'm mad. I've got the McIntyre. No, it's the Horan madness.
You are kind of mad. You are kind of
Uncle
mad.
Barry was
You're kind
famous
of
for
crazy. So carry on.
being mad, and another reason that my homosexual father just couldn't stop talking about.
Yeah.
Which I'm not even going to mention about, but that's quite funny. These pedophiles are quite strange the way they talk about other men's assets. It's bizarre, isn't it?
Well, yeah, Max
just
into
used to
everything.
dribble on all the time.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Do
it's
you
sort of like,
think, and I want to ask you a question now, and sorry to interrupt you here, because this is very interesting to me. I think this whole gender inversion has been going on a lot longer than what we've known, like these designer babies and stuff like that. What I'm seeing more and more, and when I'm especially because, when we're looking at the typical male female, the thing I notice is the skull. There's a distinct difference in the skull when you're looking at that and when you know what to look for.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. I mean, you know, how big or small you are as a man or a woman, but you're going to be either have a male frame or a female frame. But a lot of these babies, and it's not even elite babies or celebrities that we've been seeing. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes where this type of eugenics has been going on for the longest time. And I am actually currently, and maybe we should do a show on this because I'm actually doing research for a show on this. It's like, if I look at Epstein to me was a gender inversion. He is a female skull. Now, however they did that, to me, is saying, I don't know how, but that part of him that needed to be a woman, that is a woman, that is female, it, you know, becomes so destructive, and you project all of that on that death wish you have basically onto those around you. So I'm seeing, like with the Italian mafioso families and stuff, I'm seeing how that's happened. So I'm wondering if perhaps if we're looking at these pedos in Australia, like your dad and stuff like that, I mean, they can still have babies. They've got to take testosterone. Men have got to have boobs like operated on to be taken away, but they can still make babies. That's the thing. So we fooled a lot by thinking all these celebrities had a sex change. I don't believe they did. And, you know, when you look at Thailand, there's a strong ladyboy culture there as well. These guys are born like that, right? So, and I'm feeling like there's a lot of that's been going on, that these guys can actually have babies. They might have low sperm count or something, you know, stuff like that, but they're kind of meant to be in a different body. And that to me is what creates these sick people.
How dare you? You're not allowed to say that. The new sick is being heterosexual.
Yeah.
I try to keep it a secret, otherwise people might talk about me behind my back. And he's not gay. I know. Look, I'm on the fence here. I'm not telling you if I'm a man or a woman, if I'm a lesbian or if I'm homosexual, but I'm not a pedophile. I'm staying on the fence. I'm going to see which side wins, and then I'm jumping onto their side.
Yeah. We're neutral like Switzerland. Yeah, we're neutral.
I've got a bit of money on the Christians. I've got a bit of money on the Muslims and all of the others. I'm sprinkling my shares amongst everybody, and I'm going to watch and see where the market goes, and then I'm on their side.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not stupid.
But you can see where the trauma would happen with these people from a very early age. They've been completely lied to, told that they're a sex.
It's like Nicole Kidman. She's one of those that was inverted in the womb. Yeah. So she has the female.
How did you know that?
Externals. Well, I've been told that several times, and when I look at it, it makes sense. But she has male internals, which is why she can't have babies, right? So she has to adopt. And don't tell me she and this other guy have had their own babies. I don't believe that. But you look at her figure, like her body from the back. It's like a adolescent boy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So a lot of them actually look like adolescent boys. And it's such a it's such a tricky topic to broach because, you know, women have different bodies and men have different bodies, but there's something specific about this to me. And I really would like to dive deeper into it, you know, because I think this eugenics thing is so sick. And you know, listening to what you guys are talking about, it makes me wonder if that's happened.
I'll take this opportunity. Sorry,
I
Andrew.
think you better before
I'm just going to show the shape of my head.
Jail.
I am female because I get this crap all the time.
No, you're female.
So I'm just showing the full shape of my head here.
You have a female skull goes
but-
in
Why-
ever so slightly.
hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on.
This is what I see. A
I'm-
male skull
I'm
doesn't.
not going to
but
call
ever
it
so
at this
slightly.
stage. I'm not going to call it at this stage until
Yeah,
I see
you're a
you.
boy. You're a boy, Andrew. You're a boy.
Last time I checked, I was. Just.
You're a genuine boy. So that's what, but things like that, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying that this
Yeah.
world is a lot more inverted and weirded out than what we actually
you
think.
keep
And it's
saying
been going
inverted.
on. Yeah,
But
it's
I'll
been
have
going
to
on
tell
for a
you,
long time.
When I think of me, I touch myself. That was a song over here by a lady. It was,
She
you
probably
probably heard it. What was that lady's song? It was
Oh, I'm not going to sing it.
no, but she unfortunately died at an early age, but that was a fantastic song.
Yeah.
But we won't
Yeah,
say
no,
that.
no.
And you're
But it's-
doing too much intrusive inverting there, which is something I want to talk to you about a little bit later to lighten things up about our police force. This time it's in Queensland, and you're not going to believe what you will believe what I'm telling you, because it's everywhere. Let's just get off the other stuff. And look, girls have a bigger space in the pelvic bone for childbirth.
Yes.
That's how I figure it out.
Yeah.
And boys have a much smaller one.
Yeah.
Right?
The gait is different. There's a lot of
Yeah, not
there's a
kidding.
lot
It's
of-
different.
just the way
Yeah.
they walk, the way
Yeah,
their
yeah,
thighs
yeah.
meet, the way a
That's
woman walks. There's, I mean, it's hard to explain every difference because it's so normal for me to see what a woman looks like and what a man looks like. I mean, to me, there's obvious differences. But now when we're looking at this inverted, and also it's kind of like how they sacrifice their children. Because
Yeah.
part of these elite families, if you were pregnant with a boy and they wanted a girl, or you want a girl to invert to a boy, you know, you could make that choice. You could sell your child to the system even then and have that child messed with in your womb. And I'm seeing more and more of this as I'm going on, that it's not just a gender inversion operation or a gender like we're seeing. That to me is such a ruse, actually. It's a lie, because they're turning innocent people who would know no different and think that they want to be that. But meanwhile,
Yes,
a lot of
exactly.
these people have not gone through the actual surgery. It's chemically happened while they're already in the womb.
Yeah.
So it's
Hey,
bizarre to me.
Look, the truth is, we know it's chemically occurring through additives to food,
Yes.
Yeah.
growth hormones in chickens and everything, all the antibiotics they give
Birth
animals.
control,
But
birth control.
yeah.
young-
Absolutely.
young guys out here are looking like women, and they're growing boobs.
Yeah.
Growing boobs, I must use correct English. And they're growing breasts, and they're quite feminine. And if you shook their hand, you'd crush it. If you got them to do any work, they would die from fatigue. They're just soft in the middle. There's a lot of guys now really soft in the middle. The athletes, there's athletes stay strong, stay masculine, and the women as well. They can be very masculine and strong, and they beat up lots of guys. You have to hand it to them. Chicks have muscles these days.
Yeah.
But
It's like, if I look
there
at Bruce
is-
Jenner, to me, Bruce Jenner was born a woman. I look at Bruce
Ah.
Jenner, that guy was born a woman, and he's finally gone back to where he needs to be. Like, he might not be
interesting.
the most feminine looking woman on the planet, because obviously he's been inverted to male. But now it's like his whole life, if you hear about that, you know, the way he was speaking, he's always wanted to be a woman. Something in him has just yearned for that. But yet he had this fantastically successful career as an athlete, no doubt part of the system, right? Part of the agenda. So you create that kind of image, but then the older they get, they then become more of who they naturally are, when we're seeing it just on the celebrity stages as well. It's so bizarre. There's just so much of this going on. And I think it's, as I said 100 times already, It's much more than what we think. And even you're looking at people just in normal police stations, you know, look at their skulls. Like we're finding that around all over us, all over. It's not
And
just
look at the collarbone as well, because the collarbone comes down for a woman, but for a man it's straight across.
straight.
We're getting into dangerous territory here, ladies, and you're dragging me into it with you. If you guys want to be attacked, leave me out of it. Remember, I'm neutral. I don't know what I am. Everybody, I don't know what I am.
You are the rose amongst us thorns.
I may look like a boy, but it doesn't mean that I am. All right?
He's poking fun with everybody in Safe Hole, but doesn't want to talk about this.
No,
Very
this
smart,
is
Andrew.
ladies talk. And honestly, as soon as we get away from this, the better. Because it's just, I would go on, and then people would say that Andy has problems. He talks about ladies' products and ladies' issues and ladies' temperaments and all that sort of stuff. And it's what a lady wants. Well, how about us guys? It's what we need too, you know. But look, it's all getting pretty confusing. And the kids over here, from the time shortly after I left school, were being brainwashed by the wokes. They had to go out and lick a tree or something. They had to do a lot of things. They're brainwashed in our schools. And there's a lot of people now send their children to private schools so they can get away from the bullshit that's rammed down the throats of their children.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're telling them, the boys, you don't have to be a boy, you can be a girl if you want to. And then there's doctors out here that make a lot of money changing your gender.
Yeah, it's horrific.
Because when you're gullible and you're really young, they say, Andy, you don't want to be a boy, do you? Well, yes, I do. No, you don't. You want to be a girlie, don't you? Have girly things. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. And the next thing, before you know, you've lost a lot.
Yeah.
And then you go through your hormonal change and you go, I feel like I'm a boy, but I look like a girl. I have problems.
Yeah.
But then you can go on to the problems pension. You get onto a pension for anything in Australia.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have a shot at people, and I don't want people to think I'm having a go at them. I'm just trying to be a little bit funny. I'd like to talk about the more serious stuff like police corruption, which we're going to move to. Let's stop this discussion about genitalia.
We're going to the butch. We're going back to the butch topics again. All the boys with guns. Okay.
Being unsure about my sex and the way I think, God help me if I become feminine, because my father used to have a few drinks and start talking like a gay person. Nothing wrong with talking like a gay person. But he was in the closet. He was in the closet. And every now and again, after a couple of beers, he'd pop out of the closet.
Gay. That's what I'm saying. That might not be gay. That might be him.
Oh, he was gay, all right.
He wasn't inverted. He
was just a trisexual, try anything.
Exactly.
Okay.
Animals.
Animal. Don't say that about animals. Next thing, we'll have animals coming in on my Facebook page and having a go at me. It's bad enough that I've had white pointer sharks have tried to eat me on several occasions. And I turn around and go, what are you looking at? And they look at me, you big fella. Oh, you'd be nice. And I say, well, you want to eat this spear gun? I think you better leave. Yeah, when you go skin diving over here, it's dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
Very dangerous. I've had a lot of close calls.
But we dress up like
don't go
seals
surfing.
and go out and
we're allowed to. It's called, the water's cold. And, you know, and I'll stop here because we have something called cold water shrinkage. It's not good for a man, and that's why we have to wear a wetsuit. Because before you know it, enough cold water.
Good for a woman too.
That's the first ever before in an interview. That's the first one.
The additives in the food and everything, and cold water, it's very dangerous. We're on shaky ground here. So let's leave this topic before I won't even be able to look at myself and take myself seriously. Now, on a serious note.
And then how can Brian Litley even take you seriously ever again, right?
Forgot about Brian. I wonder if he's having any problems. Let's not talk about Brian's problems. That's between what Brian does and what I know.
Yeah.
And if you behave yourself, Brian, we'll keep it a secret. Okay? Because you heap shit on me and you tell everybody I'm a brainless nobody that never was. I've never been a witness. You're sticking up for my father. But this is what I want to tell you. This is something that Brian Little's been. Oh, I'm glad we got off that other subject. I was feeling so confused. My cell count was going crazy. But
Completely out of your league.
And I could never be a stand-up comedian. Perish the thought. Although some people have suggested it, but I'd be arrested on stage. Probably never get past my first gig. But anyway, neither would the audience. They wouldn't survive my first gig. But what I tell you about is what Brian has been doing, besides shit canning us and we're nobody, he gets rid of the witnesses and won't talk to the people who are living. But as soon as somebody dies like Nancy Beaumont,
the mother of the Beaumont children,
he attacks her. Now, nobody should attack Nancy Beaumont. Nobody should be dragging up Nancy Beaumont's private life, whether it's correct or whether it's a lie, true or false, because Nancy Beaumont had to live her whole life into her 90s knowing that her children were taken away, abducted, and I know what happened to some of them. I know some things that I brushed on. They're in the interviews that I have, and Brian has as well, and Sape will have them as well. So they know everything, but they won't say anything. Brian, 2 of his shows back, and on previous one and this one, he starts talking about some dirt that he has on Nancy Beaumont, and nobody has a problem with it. Well, I have a problem, Brian, and that is that he brings a whole lot of, he's got a list of all these dead people, supposedly pedophiles. But can you believe what SAPOL and the courts say about people? No, you can't believe everything. It's a grey area. Yeah. Let's say some of them were convicted pedophiles or whatever. They were never convicted for raping children. They were convicted for another crime of blackmail, fraud, but they were never convicted on the pedophile charge because that was legal. You have to realise. One of the guys was convicted in 1950 or 53 of crime. It wasn't crimes against children. It was blackmail or fraud. But Brian talks about these cases. But then he throws in other people that we hardly have ever heard about. And he has 2 called the Cotton Brothers. They were both pedophiles, so said Brian. And they were both involved in the Beaumont abduction and murders, says Brian again. But they're also both having sex with Nancy Beaumont. That is the 2 of them at the same time on the same morning. And that's why Nancy Beaumont, you get the stuff from me that nobody's ever heard about before. Some people are upset about this. Nancy Beaumont sent her children away down to Glenelg so she could have group sex with the Cotton Brothers. Now, don't you think that's a horrid thing to say about a woman who's lost her children?
And has absolutely no way of defending herself.
It gets worse.
What a misogynistic psychopath. Sorry.
Because maybe Brian has issues that he had to do this to people.
And misogynist is one. Absolutely. Yeah.
And this is just terrible, right? First I've heard of it. So Brian tells everybody at this last show at Whyalla, so we know where we're referring to, where I was almost threatened with physical violence to remove me from something that I'd paid good money to see, and I was the star of the whole show. Like, it was showing interviews with me. Why am I allowed to be there? You're interviewing my father. I've had legal advice, and I get my legal advice for free. I'm allowed to be there. I'm allowed to record it, and that's all been taken care of. But anyway, he comes up with this, and then he says, nobody has a problem with what I'm saying. That's an issue. And then he said, I was told this by somebody 4 years ago. Well, that's when Nancy Beaumont died.
Yeah.
So he couldn't come up with this absolute fabricated bullshit about Nancy Beaumont when she was alive, because Nancy Beaumont would have sued him, and she could have gone into a court and said, that never happened. Brian Little's a liar. Yeah. Right? And I call you a liar, Brian. because I have evidence written down. And do you have any legal documents that will send you to prison for blasphemy, for perjury,
Yeah.
or whatever? So Brian does his
blasphemy.
number of people that are dead,
Blasphemy.
so they can't defend themselves.
Yeah.
So you've got, it gets funnier. You've got the Cotton brothers having sex with Nancy Beaumont at the same time. And later on, she left her husband, Grant Beaumont, and she went and lived with one of those brothers. And that could have happened. I don't know. Brian knows more than I do, because it's not none of my business. I'm just a witness to a small section of time with the Beaumont children, and then the rest of my father's life, with my life, our life with our father. We're witnesses to that. But then Brian accuses these two men of abducting and murdering the Beaumont children. But how could have they been abducting and murdering the Beaumont children if they were having sex with Nancy Beaumont that day?
Yeah.
But he's got them down on a list as, see the hand, as major suspects, right? There's a whole list of them. People you've hardly ever heard of before.
Yeah.
But they were all involved in the abduction and murder of the Beaumont children. But he won't interview Andrew McIntyre. He won't interview Ruth Collins. My sister Ruth told him to F off, right? Thought there was something wrong with him. And I thought, oh, I'll give him a break. I thought Ruth might have had a problem and had issues with talking to people like journalists, because some of them can be annoying.
Yeah.
And what you say isn't necessarily what's been printed. But I think the average journalist is pretty cool. They do a job. Somebody has to do it. So I'm not having a go at journalism, because I deal with journalists. I have their cards, and I can ring them up if I want to. And they're all breaking their phones right now, so I can't contact them. Hell, that costs a lot of. The phone company makes a lot of money out of every time I say I'm going to ring somebody. No, flush it down the toilet. So anyway, getting back to serious business. Brian has this great big long list, and he finishes his 3 sessions each time with a list of suspects. He has Anthony Munro at the beginning, major suspect. A photograph of Anthony Munro taken by me, Andrew McIntyre, at the beach down at Maiponga Beach. I took that photo.
Yeah.
It's the gayest photo you could have ever taken. And I didn't do it deliberately. And Tony didn't go around looking gay, but him with the hand spear is the gayest thing I've ever seen. I'm sorry, Tony. I apologize to you. It wasn't my fault. But, you know, I apologize for that. But it's out there. Brian literally shows everybody. And Anthony Munro, it's about time you sued Brian Littley, because, yeah, you're a convicted pedophile, but you've done your time. Now you're out. I want you to have a look at and do some research. You have plenty of money. Brian Littley tells everybody that when you went to prison, oh, hell, I'm on a roll here. When you went to prison, you were worth $40 million.
Good grief.
Well, where did Brian Littley get that information? John Pike? I don't know. Gets me to another subject, but I'll stick to the one I'm at. He's left my father out completely. No involvement, no knowledge, no involvement in the Beaumont case whatsoever. But when Brian was illegally, Bradley Gardner was filming, Brian was recording with the audio illegally, and I don't give a shit, because my father's an arsehole. And he should have died 50 years ago. That would have been good. If he had died before that, my mother would still be alive, because he murdered my mother.
Yeah.
But anyway, he murdered a lot of people. He probably murdered my sister Claire. Yeah. But he leaves Max McIntyre out. He's out. He starts with Tony Munro. From my research, I know that Tony Munro did not murder the Beaumont children. Tony Munro didn't have any interest in little girls. He had an interest in teenage boys, or maybe a bit younger than teenage. But he was there, and he contacted the police, and he told them everything. That's one of the phone calls that my father received. We won't go into it. I've done a stat deck on it, and Ruth, my younger sister, heard the conversation. But Tony told the police what had happened. I know that. And why don't you, Tony? You've been telling the police what happened for what, 60 years? And they won't breathe a word? I think John Pike was definitely there, because John Pike could give you a blow-to-blow description of what happened to one of the children.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I didn't listen to these interviews. I just happened to press on one of the interviews, and I was shocked. I mean, I was horrified at what I had to listen to.
Yeah.
I just brushed on that on a previous conversation that we've had, and I'm not going over it
I
again.
remember you had a series of nightmares after that.
But if you want to be horrified, maybe I can send you over 6 hours of interviews with a psychopathic pedophile murderer, and you can listen to these conversations. Some of the stuff's really creepy. It's even about me, but it's just funny, you know, like you have to laugh. It's John Pike, a dribbling pedophile with a few issues with being a bit hyper or something, and a strange father. They talk about me a lot, which is pretty bizarre.
That is bizarre.
Now I have to laugh about it. But yeah, he's got Anthony Munro, who did not murder the Beaumont children, as number one suspect. And then he's got a whole lot of other people that most people wouldn't even know. Hart.
Bruce?
No. Who's the Hart guy? The Oval abductions.
Alan Hart?
No. Stanley Arthur Hart.
Stanley
Stanley Arthur
Arthur Hart.
Hart was a pretty mean sort of character. And he probably was involved in the Oval abductions, where 2 young girls were abducted. 60,000 or 40,000 people there or something in a football match. Brian knows all about that. Brian comes out with things that, how would he know that the children were walking around for 20 minutes or something? How would he know these things?
Mm-hmm.
Brian comes up with a whole lot of stuff. Is how in the hell would you know, Brian? If you're lucky, you might have been born then. My solicitor mate was Craig Roberts. He was at that football match with his father. He was actually on there on the day.
Wow.
But Brian Littley, I reckon he was probably not born until after all of this stuff happened. Brian would be about middle 50s, I should say.
This is another thing that happens, because I've spoken up about the Beaumont children because our father was involved. I wasn't born until 1973. Brian goes on and on about how I wasn't even born then. He wasn't born then.
That's right.
He's not an expert on this case.
No.
He wasn't born then. And this is the way these people always trip themselves up.
Yeah.
And he's getting all this information from and about dead people. So let's get back to Nancy Beaumont. I think it is disgusting that he could be saying that Nancy Beaumont was having group sex like a whore or a slut or something like that is very inappropriate. And he doesn't have a problem with it. So Brian has a problem with his moral standards and his ethic, his behavior. He has a problem with it.
And one last thing, Shanti, you'll be horrified. One of the children that went missing at the Oval abduction case, these 2 little children, Kirsty Gordon and Joanne Ratcliffe, one of them is identical. One of these little girls that went missing is identical to a AI generated image that he used to sell his Victor Harbour show. This child's decapitated.
With a heap of bones and this girl's head upside down in the death sort of like position.
Decapitated and identical to one of these Oval.
And he's putting it out there as his promo.
To sell tickets. It's disgusting. It is just disgusting.
Why would you be shocked about that? That's situation normal here with certain people in South Australia. So what I want to say is Brian, whether Brian is a Mason, possibly is, but that's a secret. And I don't have a problem with Freemasons either. Only the Freemasons that are pedophiles. Yeah. Only the Freemasons that would not convict pedophiles in a court. I have a problem with the policemen through the decades of my life who refused to prosecute pedophiles. I have a problem with policemen that destroyed evidence that could convict pedophiles. So it's all that. But so Brian tells everybody that I'm stopping people from digging up the Beaumont children.
All we're doing is warning people, because we know that our brother who owns the property It's not someone you should be going and digging up without permission, because he's fucking dangerous.
Of course he's dangerous. I've had him abusing myself and a journalist more than 300 meters from his land, standing on top of a cliff, and I thought he was going to start hurling boulders down on top of us. He would have killed me in a heartbeat if he could have. And the journalist I was with was absolutely gutless. And I said, pull your camera out and film this. And he was so frightened that he wouldn't even switch his camera on.
Wow.
Another
The mind control is strong. The mind control. I mean, you know, the power that these guys have.
Some
over
people are a
these
bit soft in the middle. What a disappointment he was. If I had have been with that lady we did work with about 10 years ago, Dee. She's from South Africa.
Shanti's interviewed Dee.
Dee, yeah. Well, if I had been with Dee, she said that she would have seized the moment, walked up the cliff filming him, and I said I would have walked up there and allow him to beat the shit out of me.
So she could film it.
So he could film it. And get him on assault charge and fix him up later. Because nobody can see my black four-wheel drive when it's sneaking up behind them. That's what I tell people that are going to bash my brains in occasionally. I said, you're going to have to kill me, because the last thing you're going to hear is my four-wheel drive, and then you'll see what the underneath of it looks like. Of course, I'm only kidding.
Only joking.
I'm kidding, but boy, does that get people to sit up and run in the other direction.
Well, I honestly think that I love the information you're bringing out. Got to wrap it up for today. But hopefully, Andrew, you will be back with us in a month from now. Yeah? 4 weeks.
But before you try to get rid of me, there's something that I haven't told you. And we'll leave Brian alone, because Brian's dug his own grave with his mouth by now. There's no way he's going to survive locking horns with me or Rachel. He's just not going to get away with it. I have plans for him legally, if you're listening, Brian. And the next time you see my face, you'll know what I mean, because I have helpers. So that's something you should watch out for. Don't badmouth us and say that we all change that subject. Yeah, but the other thing is the Queensland police at the moment show there's nothing wrong. They've been involved in a court case. They've been digitally raped, anally and vaginally. I'm glad I got that right. Men and women, because they love that sort of thing, up in Queensland at rock concerts. And that's assault. That's rape. And they have 6,000 people complaining and going for a group class action. 6,000. There's probably another 6,000 that didn't want to get involved in it. And the government was ruled against them. And so the government's gone in there on appeal and said, oh, but our police officers haven't been specially trained about anal and vaginal rape. And so they didn't know what they were doing, because they were only grown-ups. No, they were getting their rocks off, strip searching people. We're 6,000 in court. And they said, oh, but we didn't know what we were doing. Was there something wrong with that? Oh, we're so surprised. What a crock of shit, as we say over here. Yeah. So that's something you need to watch, that they're on appeal saying that our police officers hadn't been specially trained on raping people to do it legally. Well, they're not doctors. They're just people like us that put on a uniform and then strip search people. Yeah. And they say, we suspect that you're concealing a small car.
Exactly. It's ridiculous.
3 tons of cocaine or whatever. Yeah. So we're going to go looking for it. Well, if somebody did that to me, being a victim of crime of that type of behavior when I was a child, I'd be devastated. That could lead me to suicide. And the police would go, well, something had to work. We finally got rid of him. He was an annoying little fart, wasn't he? Now we just have to get rid of Rachel. You see?
Always done to traumatize, actually, and trigger people. Yeah.
Exactly.
6,000. So in New South Wales, I hope everybody watched the Four Corners report. In New South Wales, they came back and said, after the Four Corners report, the police started reporting on the police. And all the women were complaining about the female officers that had been raped while they were in the New South Wales police force, those that had been bullied out, those that had tried to commit suicide because of the bullying from in the police force, which goes all the way to the top.
Yeah.
The top people know about it, and it's part of being in the brotherhood. You bully people. Yeah. You make them subservient. So now, do you know what the result is? The government and the police force have come out and said, wait for it, this may take decades to correct. Decades. That's a decade is 10 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Decades is multiple decades. And this may be generational. Can you believe this bullshit? This may be generational, that it would be generational to stop the New South Wales police from beating up naked ladies on the footpath.
Yeah. Which is the case he mentioned in the last.
You can't say no. You can't say, police officer, that's assault. We're going to put you in prison with a whole lot of people that don't like you. So they're going to wait for generations, and they're going to wait for decades for it to correct itself.
Yeah.
And that's
not
it.
Gonna,
I have to let you go, but when you thought you heard it all,
it's not going to correct itself. Attention has to be drawn to it, and you know, things have to be done in order for these things to be corrected. But guys, thank you so much. I very much appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much for everybody in the chat for joining us. Please like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment. This information is really important to get out as well, especially for you guys in Australia there. So take it easy. I see you again, Rachel and Andrew, 4 weeks from now. And we will be carrying on these conversations. If you guys want to get hold of any of Rachel or Andrew, all the details are in the description area below. So guys, take it easy. Anything you guys want to say in closing? Rachel or Andrew?
Rachel?
Oh, thanks, darling. I appreciate it.
And I'm going to take a breath because I've forgotten to breathe. I've been talking too much. I'm like one of those whales. I can submerge into speech for about an hour, and then I have to take another breath.
Listen, I understand. No, we understand. I mean, this is top-notch information. Appreciate you guys very much. Thank you.
It's all true. It's all backed up with legal documents. Neither of us embellish or exaggerate or tell lies. So if anybody has a problem with what we're saying, let us know first. We'd love to speak to you.
Thanks, darling.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, and I'll see you back at 1:30, which is an hour and a half from now with Jesse. And we have double trouble again. We're looking at Antarctica. We're going into what's happening in Antarctica. Decodes on that. Take it easy, everybody. God bless you all, and stay cool. Stay safe.
See you later.
Stay awesome. If this broke something open, if you recognized yourself in the testimony, if your body responded before your mind understood, the next step isn't more information. It's pattern work. Decode what your nervous system built to survive. Dismantle the story that keeps it running. Reorganize through the body and choose from the person you're becoming, not from the pattern that formed when you were too small to choose. That's Solutions. Link below. The body is the record. Let's listen.